Hal Shurtleff with Camp Constitution, and I am in downtown Boston on Boston Common, and I'm going to be visiting some of the monuments and plaques that prove without a shadow of a doubt that our city was founded on godly principles. And we'll start off with this plaque here right across from the Park Street Church. And it says here, in or about the year of our Lord 1634, the then present inhabitants of town of Boston, of whom the Honorable John Winthrop, Esquire, governor of the colony, was chief, did treat and agree with Mr. William Blackstone for the purchase of his estate and rights in any lands living within said neck of land called Boston. After which purchase, the town laid out a plan for a training field, which ever since and now is used for that purpose and for the feeding of cattle. So the training field was, of course, for the militia, which unfortunately no longer exists. And here on Boston Common, we see the Lafayette Mall. This is the section named in honor of the Marquis de Lafayette. And in 1924, they put this plaque. I know you can't probably read the writing from the video here, but let me just read it for you. This mall, named in honor of the Marquis de Lafayette, distinguished French soldier, Major General in the War of American Independence, an illustrious patriot of the French Revolution, who nobly served the cause of liberty on two continents, invited by act of Congress to revisit the United States as a guest of the nation in 1824. He was welcomed with signal honor. As he passed along this mall, he laid the cornerstone of Bunker Hill Monument, June 17, 1825. And here's a quote: "Heaven saw fit to ordain that the electric spark of liberty should be conducted through you from the new world to the old." Heaven saw fit. Sounds like it has a godly perspective here, folks. And here in the Parkman Plaza on Boston Common is a statue, and look what it says. It says religion. Parkman Plaza, dedicated to the memory of George F. Parkman. And just a short distance from the statue of religion on the Boston Common, you see a monument here honoring the Declaration of Independence. And again, you can't read it, but we know what the Declaration says, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And so here's another monument honoring the Creator, honoring God. As we continue our walk around Boston Common, you'll see these signs, probably about a half a dozen of them. Boston Common founded in 1634, and what most people will miss, of course, is the seal of Boston. And in Latin, you'll see the inscription from the book of 1 Kings 8:57. May the Lord our God be with us as he was with our forefathers. Now, folks, continuing our walk around Boston Common, just across from the public garden on the Charles Street side is this plaque here, commemorating, or tablet commemorating, the visit of Pope John Paul II, who served Mass here in 1979. So let me just read it, and sorry for all the background noise, but it's a busy city. Pope John Paul II, in commemoration of the first Mass offered in the United States by His Holiness of his first pastoral visit to this country, 1st October 1979, here on Boston Common during the 350th year of the founding of Boston. May God's peace descend on the city of Boston and bring joy to every conscience and joy to every heart. Pope John Paul II. And while he was here, the Vatican flag was flying along with the flags of the United States, the flag of Massachusetts, and the city of Boston. All right, folks, we are here on the Beacon Hill or Beacon Street side of Boston Common, and this plaque is just on the other side of the common. And let me read it. It was put here to commemorate the 300th anniversary of the city of Boston. Actually, September 17th, 1930. September 17th, coincidentally, is also Constitution Day. Anyway, the first quote is from John Winthrop. "For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill." That's a biblical reference. "The eyes of all people are upon us, so that if we shall deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, we shall be made a story and a byword through the world." And then Governor Bradford, William Bradford, in 1630, "Thus out of small beginnings greater things have been produced by his hand," and that's God's hand, "that made all things of nothing. And as one small candle may light 1,000, so the light here kindled has shown to many, yea, in some sort to the whole nation." And then this is a quote from Mayor Curley. "In gratitude to God for the blessings enjoyed under a free government, the city of Boston has erected this memorial on the 300th anniversary of its founding." And on the other side of the inscription to commemorate the 300th anniversary is this beautiful monument, and it simply says Boston founded AD 1630. AD, of course, is the abbreviation for the Latin Anno Domini, year of our Lord. And while that might be a technicality, you don't see AD used much anymore. Now they use CE, meaning Common Era. And I would say Common Era. They should spell it ERROR. And here we're in the Boston Common, just across from the State House, on the other side of the beautiful monument commemorating the 54th Regiment of Massachusetts that fought very gallantly in the Civil War, the first all-black regiment. And we could actually ask the question, is this monument promoting segregation? That's what a cultural Marxist would say, and historian or patriot would say it commemorates the brave actions of the soldiers. But here on the other side is a verse from Proverbs: "The memory of the just is blessed." All right, folks, crossing this Charles Street, we are now on the Boston's Public Garden, as you can see, founded in 1837. And here again you see the city seal and the Latin phrase from the Old Testament, 1 Kings 8:57, that says, "As God honored our forefathers, may he honor us." And here at the gate, main gate to go onto Boston's Public Garden, there is the Latin phrase that's a lot easier to see: "Secat patribus sit dies nobis," from 1 Kings chapter 8, verses 56. And here we see on Boston's Public Garden a statue, a larger-than-life statue of Everett Hale, who was actually the grandnephew of Nathan Hale, the man who was hanged for being a spy. And you see, he was born in 1822, died in 1909. And look what it says here: man of letters. I don't want to see my shadow, but I'm sorry, the sun. Man of letters, preacher of the gospel. Well, he was a Unitarian minister, so but the gospel means good news, and prophet of peace. So yet another reference to Christianity here in downtown Boston. And here we are on the Public Garden in Boston, on the corners of Arlington and Beacon Street. And you see a monument dedicated to the memory of George Robert White, who was a philanthropist. He set up a fund that is still blessing the city. And here you see a quote from the Old Testament, Ecclesiastes: "Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days." And folks, here's the final statue we're looking at here. Boston Public Garden. This is on the outside of the garden, Boylston Street and Charles Street. And it's a statue of Reverend William Ellery Channing, who was a well-known Unitarian minister, a liberal clergy member. Nevertheless, there's lots of biblical references here. He preached with spiritual power and led great advance towards the Christian ideals. Now, in the back of the statue of Reverend Channing is a quote for him. And let me read it. It's hard. I know it's hard to see it on the video here. I see the marks of God in the heavens and the earth, but how much more in a liberal intellect, in magnanimity, in unconquerable rectitude, and a philanthropy which forgives every wrong and which never despairs of the cause of Christ and human virtue. I do and I must reverence human nature. I bless it for its kind affections. I honor it for its achievements in science and in art, and still more for its examples of heroic and saintly virtue. These are marks of a divine origin and the pledge of a celestial inheritance. And I thank God that my own lot is bound up with that of the human race. And here, continuing a walk around Boston's Public Garden, we see a monument here to Ether, which, by the way, when this statue was dedicated, it was dedicated by Mayor Nathaniel Shurtleff, who was an ancestor of mine. Anyway, it's commemorating the discovery that the inhaling of ether causes insensibility to pain. And there was a famous, first time it was used successfully was at the Mass General Hospital back in the 1840s. And this actually has 2 Bible verses on it. You think you're in the Bible Belt around here, folks, in Boston. One of them here is from the book of Revelations. Neither shall there be any more pain. Now, that wasn't referring to the use of ether specifically. It was more like heaven, but it's a Bible verse. And on this side, and it's really hard to see it, so I'll read it for you. It's from the book of Isaiah, which is the Old Testament, Isaiah the prophet. And let's see. All this also comes from the Lord Almighty, whose plan is wonderful, whose wisdom is magnificent.